Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the school board meeting for today, September 6, 2022. And tonight we have a special guest who is going to lead us in the invocation and pledge. So if you would like to come on up to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Watson, and I'm proud to be here representing Altamont Elementary and introducing you all to an extraordinary lady, Jayla Jones. Look at me, Marty Flubbin. Though I've only been at Altamont for a short period of time, this young lady has had quite an impact on me and many others that have watched her develop through the years, as evidenced by her support system here tonight. Through her time at AES since kindergarten, Jayla has grown leaps and bounds academically and behaviorally. The road wasn't always easy, but with a strong village, she has become an example of perseverance and is now recognized as a leader on campus. Jayla is going to read a poem by Edgar Guest that speaks to her perseverance and strength.
Hello, my name is Jayla. Nice to see you guys. When you're up against a trouble, meet it squarely, face to face. Lift your chin and set your shoulders. Plant your feet and take a brace. When it's vain to try to dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer, see it through. Black may be the clouds about you and your future may seem grim, but don't let your nerves desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, spite of all that you can do. Running from it will not save you. See it through. Even hope may seem but gone when with trouble you're beset. But remember, you are facing just what other men have met. You may fail, but fall, still fighting. Don't give up. Whatever you do, eyes front, head high to the finish. See it through. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you.
Well done, Jayla. Thank you for coming and spending your time with us. We appreciate you sharing your talent. For the record, let the record reflect that all school board members, superintendent, board attorney, and board clerk are present. Ms. Marimus, do we have any recognition or acknowledgements? Thank you. Superintendent, do you have any agenda modifications?
Yes, the addendum for good cause is marked on our electronic agenda by a green flag named addendum item.
Agenda modifications from the school board. Dr. Calderon?
No modifications, Madam Chair.
Member Sanchez?
No modifications, thank you.
Member Kraus?
No modifications, Member Chair.
Member Almond?
No modifications, Madam Chair.
And I have two. I'm going to request a representative for item J. And then we have two solicitations, K and L, which are for English Estates Elementary, which is one of the schools in my district, so I have offered to take that one.
Thank you.
Do I have an approval for the agenda outline?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
If you cannot fulfill your obligation or your intent to do English Estates, I would do it. It's very close to me.
Okay,
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent, we have presentations and recognition.
Yes, we will get started with the Veteran of the Month, Mr. Nguyen.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Pfeiffer. I am the proud principal of Seminole High School, Go Noles, and I am here to honor Mr. Wynn as being the Veteran of the Month. Mr. Wynn is a native of Sanford, Florida. He is a 1980 graduate of Lake Howell High School. Mr. Wynn continued his education at St. Augustine College in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he received his Bachelor of Science degree in Health and Physical Education in 1984. Mr. Wynn continued his education at Nova Southeastern University, received his master's degree in science. Mr. Wynn enlisted in the Reserve Officers Training Corps in 1982 and completed basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and advanced training in 1983 at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, under the 82nd Airborne Division. In May 1984, Mr. Wynn received his commission into the United States Army as a second lieutenant, where he completed the United States Army Transportation Officers School and received his diploma in transportation management from Fort Eustis in Newport News, Virginia. From 1984 to 1988, Mr. Wynn served as platoon leader in the United States Army Reserve's 674th Transportation Unit in Orlando, Florida. After completing military school, Mr. Wynn returned to Florida to provide his effective leadership and skills and strategies to enhance the shape of the academic future of the youth in his community. Mr. Wynn's interaction with the youth helped to build their interpersonal skills and instilled a sense of self-worth that motivated them to succeed. In December of 1984, Mr. Wynn was employed as the assistant varsity football and basketball coach at Wymore Center and Educational Center. In 1986, Mr. Wynn began working for the Seminole County Public School System as an adaptive physical education teacher at the Rosenwald Student Center in Altamont Springs, Florida. In addition to the Rosenwald Student Center, Mr. Wynn taught physical education from 1988 to 1993. From 1993 until the present, Mr. Wynn has been at Seminole High School, where he has served as the head boys volleyball coach, head girls basketball coach, assistant girls track coach, assistant football coach, and administrative dean. Mr. Wynn now serves as the school administration manager and the head boys basketball coach. Mr. Wynn is a founding member of the City of Sanford Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Steering Committee, a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, the Goldsboro Front Porch Board of Directors, the City of Sanford My Brother's Keeper Advisory Board, the Florida High School Athletic Association, Seminole Association of School Administrators, and the Florida Athletic Coaches Association. Mr. Wynn was inducted into the Seminole High School Sports Hall of Fame in 2015. He is the recipient of the 2013 Seminole Athletic Conference Girls Basketball Coach of the Year, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 Seminole Athletic Conference Boys Basketball Coach of the Year, the Florida Athletic Coaches Association 2018 District 9 Coach of the Year, the Florida Athletic Coaches Association District 9 Class 9A Coach of the Year, Florida Association of Basketball Coaches 2019 Class 9A Coach of the Year, and the Florida Athletic Coaches Association District 9 2021 7A Boys Basketball Coach of the Year, and the 2022 Orlando Health Boys Sports Coach of the Year. So I'd like to congratulate Mr. Wynn, serving our country, and for serving Seminole High School.
Good evening, board members and Superintendent Beeman. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce 4 of our 8 newest elementary assistant principals. We'll have another batch for you next month, but the first is Ms. Melissa Brown, the new assistant principal at Keith Elementary School. Mrs. Brown began her teaching career in 1990 in rural Georgia, where she taught all elementary grades in both Georgia and Florida. She has been an instructional coach at Bentley Elementary School, where she worked for 18 years prior to taking the new position as assistant principal at Keith Elementary. With Ms. Brown this evening is her husband, Scott Brown, and her family friend, Kathy Squire. Come on down. I'm also proud to introduce to you our newest assistant principal at Hamilton Elementary School of Engineering and Technology, Ms. Jennifer McDonald. McDonald is a product of Seminole County Schools and a graduate of UCF. She has been in education for 28 years, starting her career in Broward County as a fourth grade teacher and then becoming a teacher trainer in writing best practices. For the last 19 years, she has been in Seminole County as an instructional coach, a dean, a magnet coordinator, school administrator manager, and now the new assistant principal at Hamilton Elementary. In attendance this evening is her mother, Jean Jacobs, and one of her two wonderful children, Jacob. Our newest assistant principal at Stenstrom Elementary School is Ms. Mandy Specht. Mandy is a graduate of Florida Southern College and Stetson University and began her career in education in 2000. Her most recent work with Seminole County is as an instructional coach at Lake Mary Elementary and Altamont Elementary Schools. Prior to being an instructional coach, she served as a teacher in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in Orange, Volusia, and Dixie counties. With Ms. Specht this evening is her sister, April, and brother-in-law, Sean, and niece and nephew, Annabelle and Reed, and her mother, Janet Specht. And now, our new assistant principal from Lake Orienta Elementary, Mrs. Megan Yaros. Mrs. Yaros grew up in Seminole County, and the teacher she had during her time here inspired her to pursue a career in education. She has spent 13 years working for Seminole County, 10 years as a classroom teacher, and then time as both an ESE support facilitator and district curriculum coach. She is excited to be joining the amazing students and staff at Lake Orienta. In attendance with her this evening is her husband, Pete Yaros, her daughter, Grace, and her parents, Les and Rhonda Miller. Just in case you're not sure, Grace is 4.
Ready? Okay. I hit it. Okay. And next, we will get started with our focus on student achievement. Dr. Wysong and team will talk with us a little bit about required instruction. Thank you. Turning over to you, Dr. Wysong.
Thank you, Superintendent Beeman. Good evening, Chair Pennick and board members. I'm honored to be talking with you tonight alongside Mr. Jensen and Mrs. Elwood. And we are going to talk about standards and required instruction. You may remember that we did a version of this presentation a year ago, and there have been some updates by the legislature, and so we wanted to bring this back and kind of take you through it again with the updates included. Really, the general purpose of this presentation is just to talk about what students are expected to learn this year globally from a K-12 perspective, and specifically what topics are required, what are we mandated to cover. We want parents and families to understand the various topics that are covered, and also to realize that not all of these topics are covered in specific courses. Some of them are multidisciplinary, come up in different contexts and different places, but ultimately they are prescribed for us. And we also want to talk briefly at the end of the presentation about how questions and concerns can be raised and addressed when they come up. And you know, the key piece of this, board members, is that really the state of Florida prescribes the what of what we teach. Our professional learning communities and our teachers decide the how, and that work is guided by our Department of Teaching and Learning through the publication of instructional frameworks in the major courses. So that's what we'll be working through this evening. This is not meant to be a legal presentation. However, we have included the either the reference to state statute or to Florida administrative code, so that if individuals are interested in learning more, they can go to the source document to see how the legislature and the State Board of Education frame these requirements. So first, and we're not going to spend much time on this because we've done this several times before, but certainly the primary mechanism through which it is decided what students will learn is the state content standards. And again, these establish the core content that's to be taught in K through 12. It's referenced that there will be academic standards in the statute, and then the State Board of Education actually, based on the recommendations of the commissioner, establishes the specific standards for every course and grade level. And of course, we're now working on the new BEST standards, the benchmarks for excellent student thinking, K through 12 in English language arts and mathematics. And then in science and social studies, we're still on the next gen Sunshine State standards, although there are some updates coming, and we'll talk about that at the end of the presentation. And again, there is a web link here on the slide. That is the homepage for all of the state's information about the standards. Everything's very transparent, even linking over to the state site called CPALMS, which breaks down all of the standards and provides sample lessons and resources. One thing to note with content standards is the transition timeline to the new standards was established back in 2019. Despite the pandemic, the timeline really has not changed. And again, we commend our teachers for keeping up with the changes and putting in the time to be ready for new standards on August 10th. Turning now to the other piece of where the topics for instruction come from, required instruction is the term used to describe all of the topics that are specifically identified in Florida law that have to be covered at various points in grades K through 12. And reading from the statute, there's a requirement that these topics be taught efficiently and faithfully using the books and materials required that meet the highest standards for professionalism and historical accuracy. So that is in state law. And again, these topics are not necessarily course specific, although you will see some clear connections to courses when we take a look at the list. And again, the list has really evolved over the years, and again, there was some reorganization of the list last year, and we'll highlight some of that as we move along. Condensed to one slide is a lengthy section of law that identifies 19 required instruction topics, and again, they're all listed here. And just glancing at the slide, you'll notice that many of these topics are related to social studies and civics, although it's not exclusive to that discipline. Additionally, particularly with the implementation of BEST, we know that there are lots of opportunities now in English language arts to address topics that are in the civics and social studies areas. So there's a lot of overlap happening here. And again, some of these are actual courses in themselves, but the topics you're going to talk about at multiple grade levels and multiple disciplines. We're going to walk through 5 topics in depth from this list, and those are the ones with the asterisk at the end of the title. And we chose these because there's actually fairly specific information in the statute about what is to be covered. And so Mr. Jensen is going to highlight those 5 topics with you.
Dr. Weissong. So the first topic that we teach really extensively in Seminole County, it's specifically outlined in 8th and 11th grade United States history courses that our students take, but really our students K through 12 learn a great deal about the history of the United States and the kind of required topics you see outlined here, not just in social studies coursework, but also in their English language arts coursework, the kinds of readings they do in those courses. And now we actually, with the transition to the best standards for English language arts, we have a civic literacy reading list that was published alongside those standards. It kind of outlines text by grade bands that promote civic literacy and engagement. And when we kind of crosswalk those to what we use, we were already using a lot of those texts in Seminole County. And as we continue to build instructional frameworks aligned to the best standards in our new instructional materials, we're integrating even more of those civic literacy texts to promote the required instruction around these different topics. And we included a quote from the statute there at the base, which kind of defines how American history should be taught, and specifically around the creation of a new nation based largely on the universal principles stated in the Declaration of Independence. And that's not new language, that's actually been there for quite a while. One example of how we teach the history of the United States, an example that I love, is our document-based question format we use in classrooms. We actually use these questions all the way from grade 3 through grade 11. And so built into our instructional frameworks, we have what we call DBQs, or document-based questions. These are essential questions that students grapple with, and they receive a collection of primary and secondary sources that help them explore all sides of that issue, formulate kind of a thesis for themselves, and then engage in an authentic task to represent their own ideas. That could be an essay they write, that could be a Socratic seminar discussion they have in their class, but a way for students to look at a collection of resources around a big idea, come to a viewpoint for themselves, and then engage with their classmates and teachers around that viewpoint. And you'll see kind of our approach to history in Seminole County really kind of structures that collection of resources, primary and secondary sources, letting students explore those in an inquiry-based model, and then having students create something authentic and something through their lens after they've had an opportunity to engage with those. And so you see a 5th, a 7th, an 8th, and an 11th grade example. And that 11th grade example will actually be meaningful later when Dr. Weissong talks about what's on the horizon for required instruction. Another one of our required instruction topics is the history of the Holocaust. And again, this is something that we teach extensively throughout our K through 12 experience in Seminole County, kind of increasing with complexity of ideas as you move up in age level, especially extensively in social studies at grades 6 through 12 and through ELA in those grades as well. Again, lots of readings from primary and secondary sources, both in English and in social studies that go along with the history of the Holocaust. And in general, when it comes to topics like the history of the Holocaust, we get a lot of questions from the community about how we teach important topics like this, and the answer is we teach aligned to the standards, and we teach aligned to the statute. And you can see here the statute is very specific as to what students need to take away from Holocaust instruction, which is it needs to be taught in a manner that leads to an investigation of human behavior, an understanding of the ramifications of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping, and an examination of what it means to be a responsible and respectful person. And we've included some additional language there about the essential instruction in anti-Semitism and the prevention of anti-Semitism as well. We also observe the second week in November as Holocaust Education Week. And this period of recognition, we provide, in addition to the normal Holocaust education curriculum that we have as part of our English language arts and social studies curriculum, we provide additional lessons for teachers in schools, a lot of them from the Holocaust Education Center of Florida. Those resources were vetted and approved and augmented from our district curriculum specialists, and you can see a couple examples of them here. The one on the left I particularly like. This is used in a civics lesson, so this is in a 7th grade civics lesson. This is taught right after the students learn about kind of our rights as given or outlined in the Declaration of Independence, and they contrast what was happening around the events of the Holocaust in which people were deprived of those rights as they were outlined in the Declaration of Independence. And so it's a really, I think, cool juxtaposition of ideas, and it, again, gives students a number of primary source documents, photos, written newspaper compilations to engage with those materials, and it's, I think, a really powerful experience for students. Another one of our required instruction topics is the history of African Americans. This is another one where we get a lot of, I would say, public curiosity and a lot of questions about how this is taught. And again, it's taught in alignment to the standards, and it's taught in alignment to statute. You can see 3 really key pieces from the required instruction statute about how we teach the history of African Americans. And the importance of students, again, developing understanding of the ramifications of prejudice, racism, and stereotyping. And I think that third bullet point is really important about how our instructional personnel, our teachers, can facilitate discussions and use our curricula to address in an age-appropriate manner how freedoms of persons have been infringed by slavery, racial oppression, segregation, and discrimination. And so we have, obviously this is taught extensively throughout our K through 12 curriculum, not just in social studies, but in English language arts as well. Students, again, analyze a number of primary source documents. You can see on the right-hand side there a protocol we really enjoy using in our schools called a structured academic controversy. Again, this is an opportunity to provide teachers with a very structured framework for having students look at 2 perspectives in an issue, gather research about both sides, come to an idea, and then express that idea authentically through either a written or verbal artifact. And so I think that example on the right is from an 8th grade classroom, and that example on the left is from an 11th grade classroom. We also, one of our required instruction topics is civic and character education. This is not just embedded in all of the previous topics we talked about, but embedded throughout our K-12 curriculum in all subject areas. We have it not just in the readings we select, the lessons we provide in our frameworks. We also provide an entirely separate set of frameworks with additional lessons that meet some of our civic and character education requirements, and those are reported annually to the state. You can see some of those ideas of patriotism, citizenship, and voting using the uniform primary and general election ballot, which is something we do in partnership with our supervisor of elections here in Seminole County. To take you through the 5th detailed topic that we're going to look at today, Ms. Elwood is going to kind of walk you through all the different components of this comprehensive, age-appropriate, and developmentally appropriate instruction.
Thank you, Derek. So in bullet 14 of that big long list is the comprehensive age-appropriate and developmentally appropriate instruction, and this addresses different grade levels and different topics. So the first topic is health education. So we're required to provide health education that addresses the concepts of community health, consumer health, environment health, and family life, with all of these topics listed below. When we get to grades 7 through 12, teen dating violence and abuse are acknowledged and taught. And then for grades 6 through 12, they really stress sexual abstinence as the expected standard and the teaching of consequences of teenage pregnancy. Also in the statute is life skills, so that build confidence, support mental and emotional health, and enable students to overcome challenges, including all of these topics. When you get into grades 9 through 12, it really emphasizes leadership skills, organizational skills, managing stress, and getting students career and employment ready. So, and anybody who's raised a high school student knows those are skills that they all need. For mental and emotional health education, school districts must annually provide 5 hours of instruction to students in grades 6 through 12 on youth mental health awareness, with a minimum of all of these topics addressed. In our district, we do that through a series of Nearpod lessons that are 30 minutes in length that were created by our district mental health team. CPR and first aid. We're also required to provide CPR and first aid training with hands-on instruction to students in grade 9 and grade 11. We currently work with our school board nurses in high schools to develop a plan at each high school to meet that requirement. So we get a lot of questions about the participation requirement by students. Florida law does not authorize exemption from the required instruction by parents, except for the teaching of reproductive health or any disease, including HIV and AIDS, its symptoms, development, and treatment. So a student can be exempted by a parent making a written request to the school. So, and that student cannot be penalized by reason of that exemption for that particular topic.
So board members, just to add to Mrs. Elwood's comments, the slide about life skills is the reorganized part of the statute that was done by the 2022 legislature. So the term life skills, which we've often talked about colloquially, is now in the statute. And with several skills organized under it. And in particular, we're seeing more and more in the literature from DOE about this concept of resiliency and building curriculum, around that concept. So I think we'll see more of that to come. So moving from kind of what's required to next steps, there is also a requirement in place for districts to report on how all of these topics are taught. So it's not just enough that we inform schools and teachers of the obligation to do that, but then as a district we have an obligation to document how we actually did it. That process is organized by Mr. Jensen and his staff. And so each year by July 1, we have to report on what we actually completed the prior year. And then by December 1, there are elements of the required instruction topics that we have to provide our plan to cover by December 1. Not all of the topics, but selected topics that have to be reported on for the current year. And all of that is transparently available at flrequiredinstruction.org, and all of the district plans, including Seminole's, are posted there for multiple years. So again, if there are members of the public who are interested in exactly which courses we cover the curriculum and what source material we used, all of that is available on that website. In terms of, again, a commitment to curriculum and instruction transparency, again, there are times when we get questions from the public or from parents about some of the topics either that Mr. Jensen discussed, or certainly health education is a topic we get questions about. And again, parents and guardians certainly have the right to review instructional materials used in the classroom, and that can be arranged at the school level by request to the principal. Additionally, we strongly encourage parents who do have questions to start with the classroom teacher, because Remember back to where we began, our teachers and their professional learning communities really determine the how, guided by the district instructional frameworks. And so the teachers themselves are in the best position to answer questions about specific lessons, specific resources that are used. And then, of course, if there are concerns, then the next appropriate person to talk with is the principal. They have a lot of authority and responsibility in statute to ensure that the required instruction topics are taught and that the resources are appropriate. And of course, when there are additional concerns from there, then our principals are supported by their assistant superintendents, and of course we work as a team up here to address any concerns. So that's just kind of a glimpse into how we work through when there are specific questions and concerns about what's being taught. Moving forward, we are already working on some known changes for the 23-24 school year, and the State Board of Education has acted very early to approve new civics and government standards along with new Holocaust standards. It's always much appreciated when we have those things well in advance, because it really gives our teams time to read and to think and to reach out and collaborate so that we get the best implementation possible. So those standards have already been adopted, and again, they're publicly available on that Florida Standards website. We also have to add, based on legislation from last session, instruction about victims of communism, and specifically in 23-24, 45 minutes of instruction in U.S. government courses regarding that day. And finally, the legislature last session added a personal financial literacy course as a graduation requirement, and that requirement begins for students in the 9th grade as of the 23-24 school year. So that will affect that cohort then that graduates on time in 2028, but the planning, 2027, but the planning has to begin for that now, because there are impacts not only to curriculum but to scheduling. So those conversations are underway already. Finally, I want to mention that in preparation for those standards changes, along with the routine adoption of textbooks, the next discipline that we are adopting for is social studies, and we've discussed this on 3 or 4 other occasions. This process is well underway, but certainly I want to mention it since we're talking about instruction this evening. And again, just a highlight of this process: the entire textbook adoption process is transparently available on our website. That includes the schedule when all of the committees are meeting. There are links to all of the materials that are under review so that the public can go through those resources. There is a feedback form online for members of the public to submit any comments they'd like regarding the specific materials. Those comments are reviewed by the adoption committees. The committees are made up of our classroom teachers along with a school administrator, our curriculum experts here at the district level, and then there are multiple parents on each committee, and we have done a call out for parent volunteers to serve. And that is still available on the website for if people are interested in volunteering for some of the committees that are scheduled to meet next month in October. Again, we only review materials that are on the Florida Department of Education's short bid report, so that's publishers that have submitted to the state for review, and then our committees make their recommendations. We bring them to you for approval, and then we hold pending the state's completion, because we will only purchase material that is on the final state approved list next spring, but we want to get our work done as early as possible. So again, that process is underway, and everything is on the website available to the public. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
I do. First of all, thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it. Going back on to the civics curriculum and social studies curriculum, finally, I've said this before, but I'm really relieved, especially in the younger years where that has not been adopted since 2001, unless Dr. Gard Herold did it for us in-house. But on that, I know a lot of people, for, current events, I think it's a really important thing to make sure that your children look at those as well. And there's a site called Dogo News, D-O-G-O, news.com. I highly recommend it. It comes in all different languages. And it is geared towards VPK all the way to 12th grade. And it is put in their children's words so they can understand it, and it's at their level. So I really suggest people looking in current events for that. About the life skills, Amy, and on the mental health, I know you were talking about you cannot opt out of mental health, that. So with that, and that is something that the state has adopted. How do we preview, if somebody wants to, do they have to go to the school to preview the videos, or are they online that they can? Is there a Q&A that we can help our students, like if a parent wants to reach out to their student and talk to their kids about it? How is that working?
The Nearpods are available in a PDF link format, so they can request those from their school.
Okay, so they would just request it, like you were saying, from their teacher that's teaching it, so whichever period, is it first period, or is it first period that they go to it? And the mental health videos?
It depends on the school. Every school
Each
teaches
school
it
is
in a
different.
different
Okay,
format.
so they would have to ask who it was for that. Perfect. And then I think that was the only two questions, because I wanted to make sure that they were able to ask the Q&A questions, like how, and to make sure that they had that insight as well as what they were doing. So just go to the Nearpods that are available for it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Okay, we are at board items for discussion. Member Calderon, any?
I'll save mine for the end. I didn't have any committee meetings this last period.
Member Sanchez?
I'll have mine later too.
Thank you. Member Kraus?
No comments, thank you.
Member Almond?
No comment, thank you.
Have none either, so we will head right into public comment section.
Ready? Policy 0169.1, public participation on board meetings. At board meetings. The purpose of public participation segment of the board meeting is to allow the public to address matters with the board's jurisdiction and not for resolving individual grievances or disputes. Public comments related to education, the board agenda, and the district are welcome and encouraged. Please maintain orderly conduct. The public comment section of the meeting may not be used as an open forum to discuss matters unrelated to education, to support or oppose candidates for public office, including presentation of political and/or campaign issues, announcing candidacy or campaigning, or to engage in commercial speech, attempting to sell a service or product to the board or to the public. Nor is it a forum to address matters involved in disciplinary actions of any kind, pending claims, complaints, or litigations against the district or district personnel. Also, public comment is not a forum to engage in personal attacks against a school system employee or board members. Statements made by members of the public shall be limited to 3 minutes duration. One designated group representative speaking on a proposition before the board will be a maximum of 6 minutes. No speaker may yield his or her time to any person. Substitutions of speakers will not be allowed except in exceptional circumstances as determined by the presiding officer. Speakers shall direct their comments only to the board and may not address the audience or other speakers. This policy does not prohibit the board from maintaining orderly conduct or proper decorum in a public meeting. Thank you.
Okay, we will start with Wesley Rivera, followed by Marjorie Murray, followed by Gina Dargle. You can come right up to the podium. Right up here, there's a speaker bar.
Thank you. If you found something to be harmful to your children, would you allow them to be forced to participate? The mental health videos that were just discussed were brought to our attention when our children at home displayed harmful behaviors and negative behaviors. We came to understand that these videos were the genesis of these behaviors, No notice was sent to us as parents that these videos were going to be shown, like the law clearly states it would be. The superintendent also notified us that notification would be sent out last week. To my knowledge, notification has not been sent out. Other parents have also expressed to me and my wife that they have also seen similar harmful effects caused by these videos. It seems there is no regard for parental rights or even for the law that says this material is going to be shown. How dare you demand consent to give our children a Band-Aid, but claim to need no consent when showing harmful topics like depression, suicide, and drugs to our children. Thank you.
Good evening, School Board. My name is Marjorie Murray, and my address is 919 Willow Run Lane, Winter Springs. I am here to express my disdain for a post on the Facebook page of Mrs. Pinnock, Board Chair. It is a post soliciting input into the evaluation of the superintendent, Mrs. Sarita Beeman. First and foremost, it is the responsibility of the individual board members, not the public, to evaluate the superintendent. As a board member, you hear on a daily basis both positive and negative comments from the public about the operation of the school district and its employees, including the superintendent. I am certain those comments, gathered through phone calls, emails, and casual encounters in the grocery store, other public places, contribute to your completion of the evaluation. And that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is for the school board chair to post on her Facebook page, which clearly identifies her as a school board member, a poorly constructed survey pertaining to the superintendent's evaluation, like how well the superintendent understands her role and that of the board. Really? Was this survey approved by or sanctioned by the entire board? I suspect it wasn't. Has any other board member solicited input on social media related to the current or any prior superintendent? Emphatically, no. Was this post yet another misguided activity like the letter Mrs. Pinnock posted on her same Facebook page when Mrs. Beeman was appointed? It sure appears to be. True leadership does not abdicate the responsibility to evaluate the people they hire. You, as individual board members, through your personal experiences with and observations of the superintendent and the normal communication with the people you serve, you complete your evaluation. Making it a public display on social media, that is totally unacceptable. And if not fully sanctioned by the board, the entire board, unethical. I have my own suspicions regarding the actions of the board chair. You are once again playing into a vocal and negative group tied to a political base. If that is so, that's disappointing. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Regina Darkell, speech and language pathologist with Seminole County Public Schools for 20 years. You have heard in previous school board meetings, and you'll probably hear this evening, firsthand from therapists and parents how hard we work, how important our work is in Seminole County Public Schools. I'm here tonight to speak about equitable wages. We all know about the increase that Osceola County put into effect this year for their speech language therapists. Just to review, they are starting at $69,185. This is not including years of service. while a starting first-year speech-language therapist in Seminole County is making $49,822. That is almost a $20,000 difference. Indian River County, their starting pay for speech-language therapists is $60,636. Polk County just amended their pay schedule to provide occupational therapists, physical therapists, school psychologists, and speech therapists to all be on the same scale. Hernando County also pays their occupational therapists, physical therapists, and school psychologists and speech pathologists at the same supplemental pay. And these are just a few examples of our surrounding counties. According to the 2021-2022 SEA contract for Seminole County employees, Seminole County speech-language therapists with master's degrees receive a supplement of $2,322, while our allied health professionals and counterparts, occupational therapists and physical therapists with master's degrees receive a supplement of $13,695. I'm not the best at math, but goodness, I have a calculator. That's a difference of $11,373. My question is why? Why is there a wage difference of this magnitude? Why aren't we valued as our counterparts? Thank you for your time.
Arkisha Gibson.
Hello, my name is Arkisha Gibson, and I would like to say thank you for having me this afternoon. It takes a village. Oftentimes, that statement is thrown around, but without action to follow. The SOPs you see before you today live that statement. As you can hear from this meeting and last school board meeting, numerous of us have given SCPS many years of quality service. Now, we are asking to be paid comparable to our fellow colleagues, OTs and PTs. We are also asking to receive comparable to SOPs in our sisters and brother counties. Who better to speak on behalf and who better to speak on the impact SOPs have had on their lives than the families who have benefited from our services? Without further ado, I would like to introduce former and current students and families of SCPS.
Heidi Marrero, followed by Saul Marrero.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to thank all the therapists, you guys, that make a big difference in our children's life. They help her in their speech, processing information, and communication. It is important to express yourself, words, sentence, appropriate. I'm glad children can receive therapy inside the school. It is the perfect place and convenient because there you don't need to travel around the city for therapy. Believe me, MS is hard. Instead, you could do any extracurricular activities in that time, so it's very important for our kids. Thank you, therapists. You are the best.
Order, please. Hi, I'm Sol, and I am thankful for the SLPs, or Keisha Gibson, that has been in my life. She has made a difference, and for that, I'm thankful. She has helped me with talking, communicating, and improving my academic skills. I love her, and she's a good friend. It will be nice for the SLPs to get a raise. Thank you.
Latina Nicholson, followed by Lisa Levin, followed by Melissa Hager.
Good evening. As I said, my name is Latina Nicholson. I have two amazing boys in Seminole County Public Schools. Both of them are diagnosed with autism. If you know anything about autism, communication is the hardest thing for them in public settings or anywhere. Some of the things that include in that diagnosis are speech, language impairment, language delay, and auditory processing. I also have a third that potentially will be in the Seminole County Public School systems, and she was a preemie. And so currently, she does not have bilateral tongue movement. So without bilateral tongue movement, speech would also be difficult for her. Speech is one of the two things that have helped my children that are currently in the classrooms be able to communicate with their peers. The other thing is early intervention, which also comes along with speech. You see, without the quality SLPs in the schools that I have encountered, I would not have really understood how to help them with receptive and expressive language or the pragmatics, which are the things that they have most difficulty using. I would not have been able to, I would have continued to allow them to mispronounce things like hotel and vanilla because saying we're going to the Hokentail or the can I have some Camilla ice cream is cute to grandparents and parents. I didn't understand how that would continue hindering their speech. I understand that in this time, everything is in crunch mode, and we are all trying to tighten our belts for the potential of what could be happening in the future. However, not every parent can afford private speech lessons. Not every parent can afford outside therapy. And the schools allow those parents who can afford those things or have those services in school allows them to be able to help their children in ways that are exponential. So I thank all of the SLPs. I have had all SLPs from the district from pre-K up until second grade currently. And I don't know when you called his name, but I have a little one that is going to speak to you, and he will be able to also tell you how much speech has helped him.
Hello, my name is Lisa Levin. I've been a resident of Seminole County, and I'm in my 28th school year as a speech pathologist. I've raised my two children in Seminole County Public Schools and have always spoke very highly of our school district. Today I'm here to discuss the retention and future hiring of speech pathologists in our district. In case you're not aware, many of our neighboring counties have given a significant pay increase to therapists, including OTs, PTs, and SLPs. Even Seminole County Public Schools has given a significant increase to the occupational therapists and physical therapists. For some reason, our incredible district does not feel that our SLPs in Seminole County warrant this significant increase in pay. In fact, our board has offered to only increase our stipend by $2,300, not by the $12,000, which we have asked for and was given to our counterparts. How are we going to hire quality speech pathologists in this county when we are not willing to pay them what they deserve? How are we going to retain quality speech pathologists in this county when you're not willing to pay them what they deserve? It is truly an insult to our profession to not be acknowledged as the therapists that we are as we test, treat, remediate, and dismiss so many students that are successful due to our dedication to this field. Along the way, we bond with parents, caretakers, teachers, and students on so many levels, and yet so many of our colleagues that we work with don't even know that our job as a speech pathologist is listed on page 71 of the current contract under extracurricular and other supplements. We are required to have a master's degree, and yet we are listed under extracurricular, not under therapists. I have a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Arts in Communicative Disorders, and I am paid as a teacher, not the therapist that I come to work to be every day to my students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm a speech-language pathologist. Let me tell you about my students. Before I started at my school 3 years ago, my school was not using speech-generating devices to give students their voice. Now, we have 5 students with devices signed out to them by Seminole County Public Schools, and 5 more waiting to be evaluated to get their own this year. I was also able to get our 3 developmentalist teachers one to use all day with every student so all of them have the opportunity to practice. My school has 3 full classrooms of students who deserve to access this type of education and technology. I am the only one in the entire school that can teach this to my students and their teachers. My school has 3 full classrooms of students who deserve to access this type of education and technology. Without access to this way of communicating, I would never have known Riley loves Belvitas, or that Chase has a pet snake named Nigel, or that James thinks the hand dryer in the bathroom hurts his ears and it scares him. As you can see, speech-language pathologists play a vital role in our students' lives.
I also want to talk about my own children, and they are my 2 sons who are SCPS students. One is in high school, one is in my school at Castleberry. He's in 5th grade. We love our school system, but unfortunately, they do now qualify for free and reduced lunch because I've gotten us out of an abusive marriage that now makes me a single parent. I also had to pick up a second job at a nursing home, which pays me more money in 30 hours than my 80 hours in the school system. So not only for my students do I fight, but I fight for my children and myself and my worth. So thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Nicholson?
Hi, my name is Alexi. I'm in 2nd grade. I have needed speech since kindergarten. Me and my brother Dimitri have ASD. It makes it hard for us to talk to others. Sometimes speech helps us understand what others mean and what to say. I also used to have stuttered. Wait, is this stuttered? And no one was concerned but my Didi. Speech helped me with that I needed my speech therapist in school. Thank you.
Gretchen Hobkirk, followed by Michelle Manella, followed by Sukani Balwani. I apologize if I said your name wrong.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Hobkirk from Lyman High School. So I understand it's hard for you guys or as a board to justify a substantial pay increase for one group of people. I also feel it's hard to advocate for us SLPs when I feel that everybody, all teachers deserve more money, especially our paras and the custodians and everybody. But I am here to represent the SLPs and to justify why we deserve more money, because it really comes down to a matter of supply and demand sometimes. So as you have heard many stories, but you know that when we come out of graduate school, we are qualified to work both in a medical setting and in a school setting. If we were to take the medical route, starting salaries are well above us, probably in the 80s and 90s for full-time work. But we usually sacrifice to go to the school system to pay money because we love working with children, and you do get those 2 summer months off, which is awesome. But when I'm going to give you an example of my own self. So I am on a 21 pay scale right now, and I get $55,000 a year plus the $2,300 of our stipend, so around $57,000 a year with 21 years of service. When I was up in South Carolina over the summer, I decided just to check and see what the school systems up there, if they needed SLPs, and if so, what they would pay. So I looked on the website, and sure enough, they were looking for SLPs. I called the Human Resource Office, and I asked them, I said, what would happen if I took a job up there? Would my years of service count? Would my pension transfer and all that kind of stuff? So they directed me to their salary scale, and they told me what they paid. SLPs up there are paid on the same pay scale as an OT and a PT. And they call it a Class 7. It's a master's degree with plus 30 hours. So for my same 21 years that would transfer in, my starting salary would be $70,485. In addition to that, they give all SLPs a $5,000 yearly stipend, not a sign-on bonus, a yearly stipend, for a total salary of $75,485. That's an $18,000 increase of what I'm getting paid right now. In addition to that, the school system also pays for their ASHA dues and their SCASHA dues, which is another couple of $100 we pay for. The school system pays for their health department license, which we have to pay for. They pay for all their CEUs. They give, sorry. I have this if you guys would like this information about what they offer, but thank you.
If you'd like to provide what you wrote to the clerk, she can send it to us so that we have it all. Michelle Manella.
I'm trying to clarify. Are you doing 3 minutes for non-agenda items? Okay, all right. I was going to bring up that issue, but thank you very much for fixing that. In addition to, as I have said in previous meetings, the speech-language pathologists, I really hope you guys fix that issue because they really do deserve more pay. Regarding Member Pennick's post about Superintendent Beeman's performance, I want to say how much I appreciate the opportunity to provide feedback. It makes the parents and community members feel that their opinion matters. It gives you feedback on things that maybe you hadn't already heard or known. And I appreciate the survey, and I hope you will continue to provide such opportunities. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me speak today. My name is Sukaina Mbawani, and I am a speech and language pathologist in Seminole County. Sorry. I am presenting a letter provided by a current Seminole County parent. To the Seminole County School Board, I'm writing in support of Mrs. Jennifer Truesdale and her appeal for supplemental income equal to the physical and occupational therapists in Seminole County. If not for Mrs. Truesdale, my son Alex wouldn't be the successful student he is now. Alex has auditory processing disorder and attention deficit disorder. With her specialized credentials, Mrs. Truesdale helped him overcome his multiple blocks with speech and reading. Alex gained a tremendous amount of confidence as a student and learned to express himself. He's now a successful student at Crooms Academy of Technology and is college-bound after graduation. Alex has had many SLPs during his childhood, and no one was able to reach him like Mrs. Truesdale. I'm confident that she has been the most impactful person in Alex's academic development and his future scholastic endeavors. I'm so grateful for her caring and commitment and for the differences she made in my son's life. She deserves to be compensated for her expertise and then some.
We need talented and caring SLPs in Seminole County to help our children have the best future possible. I'd be happy to provide any additional information in support of SLPs being fairly compensated for the unique skills they bring to students. Sincerely, JK. Thank you for your time tonight.
Oral Noel, followed by Iman Dawdley.
Hello, my name is Laurel. I started with speech classes in preschool and was in them through part of 6th grade. I started with Miss Gibson when I was in 1st grade. Before that, I couldn't even say my own name, and I had a hard time being understood. For the first 3 years of elementary school, I had to have my friends say my name for me. I remember in lunch lines, I would get up there and be asked my name. They wouldn't understand what I said, so a friend would have to come to my rescue. Miss Gibson became my most consistent teacher. Every year, your core teacher changes, even some PE and art teacher come and go, but Miss Gibson was always there. I was in her class at least 2 times a week. In 5th grade, I graduated speech, and with no time to celebrate, I got moved to language group and saw her 3 times a week. Because of the extra time she spent with me, I only had to do 1 semester of language in middle school. I remember calling Miss Gibson to thank her for all of her hard work. When I finished language, since I spent so much time in her class, she became someone that I looked up to all through college, and now I consider her one of my closest friends and mentor, and the only teacher I kept in close contact with. In 5th grade, it felt like I was always in her class. If I wasn't in there for class, I was in there helping her run things to teachers or even cleaning the room. Every free time I had, my 5th grade teacher knew to send me there. I know I'm not the only kid she has made such a big impact on. When I was always in her class in 5th grade, I wasn't the only student there. My friend and classmate Adeka was in there as well. Coming back and being able to help her in the classroom has made me realize how much work she really does. Every year, she has up to 50 kids. Not only is she working with them in a group, but she has to work with them individually to work on their specific sounds they have a problem with. For me, I know I struggled with my mainly many sounds, specifically the R, which is why I couldn't say my own name or be understood, with many other words. It's always moving from one sound to the next. Throughout the years, she has been given interns with no or very little pay increase, even with the extra responsibility. She has to work and prepare for her kids just as much as a core teacher. In the past few years, I've seen her workload increase and as well as her stress level. Ms. Gibson and all speech teachers deserve a pay increase. They have such an impact on students' lives. Without her, I wouldn't have been able to say my name, stand up here and speak on their behalf, or have a college degree, and now in a good career. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, school board members and superintendent. Many of us have taken the last few weeks and months to come to these board meetings. I urge you as a board not to just listen to us today, but to take notes and take time to review our job description and requirements after this meeting and what the district has offered us at the last bargaining meeting. Seasoned SLPs are leaving this county to go somewhere where they are offered more, but we are supposed to be the A-rated school district in Central Florida. Recently, several SLPs in our county have had children qualify for free and reduced lunch due to their family size and current income. Many SLPs sitting behind me today have worked in the schools for over 20 to 25 years, and we don't have a magic wand to make a child speak. We don't have a magic wand to make referrals and testing go faster, and there's no magic wand for shy students, mumblers, behaviors to go away, or even to fix social skills. Last week, the district bargaining team offered SLPs less than half of what other therapists receive. How is that fair to us as SLPs? What we do have is a master's degree and extensively continued education courses which keep up with current issues in our field, which then allow us to diagnose and treat speech and language disorders. We make a difference every day helping students learn, speak clearly, and gain confidence in communicating clearly. And although our full-time SLPs have well over 60 to 80 students a week, attend multiple meetings, and do an impossible amount of work, we all keep making a difference. I went part-time in Seminole County in 2006. It's not that I don't want to work for full-time in the school system, but the true fact is I make more working somewhere else. I work as an SLP in the schools, an SLP in private practice, and currently I just started an SLP adjunct instructor position at UCF in the Communication Sciences and Disorders Department. Recently, there's been an SOP shortage, and many of us are covering positions around the district to aid with evaluation, student study meetings, and therapy. This year, several of my UCF students were recruited to work in Seminole County. They are bachelor-level SOPs who want to pursue their master's, but if we continue to pay our SOPs low wages, they will end up leaving with their master's degree and finding work in other settings. I realize everyone works hard in education, yet sometimes I wonder if anyone around us really ever gets what we do. If the district understood our job, then we would not be dealing with wage discrimination amongst our occupational and physical therapy colleagues. We develop individual treatment plans, and my same degree allows me to work in a hospital or private practice. In reality, we are health professionals holding a health-related degree and a Florida Department of Health license working in the public school system, and our wages should reflect that. Thank you for your time.
Marty Varner, followed by Cheryl Soberg.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity for me to speak with you this evening. I'd like to speak about equitable income for the SLPs. My name is Marty Varner, and I have been a speech-language pathologist in Seminole County for 22 years. I provided therapy in elementary, middle, high school, and had the pleasure of being part of the assistive technology team. That team consisted of a vision specialist, physical therapist, occupational therapist, and myself. We worked together to determine which communication device would benefit the nonverbal, physically challenged students that we worked with. Once we provided the assistive technology to the students in the school-based SLPs provided the therapy, teaching the students, the teachers, and the families how to use the communication devices. Because of our teamwork, the nonverbal students were given a voice and were able to accomplish amazing things. Not only were these students able to use verbal output to say I love you to their families for the first time, to make a request for juice instead of milk, they were also able to actively participate in their academics. A lot of these students were labeled as intellectually disabled, which they weren't. They just physically had no way to communicate. Two students stand out. Both were nonverbal. One is able to present speeches at UCF using his communication device, and the other has had the opportunity to speak with the Florida State Senator and the President of the United States using his communication device. With the support of speech-language pathologists, we were able to help him learn how to use the device effectively. Neither student would have been able to have access to these devices without the support of the assistive technology team and the speech-language pathologists. No one on the team worked harder than anyone else. Everyone put forth the same effort. And then the speech-language pathologists picked it up from there, and they helped these students. Our stipend should be the same as the rest of our team. The speech-language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, we all deserve the same stipend. We all should be compensated the same. And I'm here to help bring attention to this issue and request the equitable pay for SLPs equal to the other members of our team. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Beeman and members of the board. Thank you for allowing my voice to be heard this evening. My name is Cheryl Schoberg, and I have been a speech-language pathologist in Seminole County since 1996. I'm here speaking tonight on behalf of myself and all the other SLPs you see here tonight and those who are watching online. All of us work with students who have been identified with an impairment in their ability to communicate. But let's talk about how important communication is. Communication cannot be overstated. You cannot have culture, society, or civilization without the ability to communicate with another. Good communication prevents wars and misunderstandings, helps us meet our needs, establishes rules and laws that aid in the structuring of society, helps people find and keep employment, provides information and guidance to people, and passes down cultural traditions, norms, and values. Good communication skills are essential to allow others and yourself to understand more accurately and quickly. In contrast, Poor communication skills lead to frequent misunderstandings and frustration. We can easily say that a communication impairment or disorder is when the capacity to use expressive and/or receptive language is limited, impaired, or delayed, and exhibited by difficulties in one or more of the following: speech, such as articulation and/or voice, conveying understanding, or by using spoken, written, or symbolic language. Some examples of communication disorders are hearing and deafness, voice problems such as dysphonia, or those caused by cleft lip or palate, stuttering, developmental disabilities, learning disabilities, syndromes such as autism and Down syndrome, brain injuries, stroke, and severe articulation. Having a communication impairment may mean that individuals feel shame, embarrassment, frustration, anger, depression, and isolation. We often take communication for granted. What if you were identified with a communication impairment or disorder? I want everyone to imagine that you stutter so bad you cannot go to a restaurant and place an order. Imagine you have such severe articulation that you cannot be understood by others and they laugh at the way you talk. Imagine that your social skills are so delayed you don't know how to act appropriately in a group. Imagine you have suffered a brain injury and need to learn communication skills all over again. And imagine you were diagnosed with autism and cannot use your voice to ask for a cup of coffee. Imagine you came home from work in tears and didn't understand why people treated you different because you cannot communicate effectively. Now I want you to imagine that this was your son, your daughter, your grandchild, your family member. Sorry, I had more, but my time is up. Thank you.
If you would like to submit your comments to Jill, she'll make sure that the rest, we get all of it.
Thank you.
Order, please.
Jennifer Truesdale, followed by Joseph D'Alessandro.
Hello. My name is Jennifer Truesdale, and I'm a speech-language pathologist working for 23 years in Seminole. I'm speaking tonight to advocate for SLPs and students. The district compensates SLPs inequitably in comparison to our OT and PT counterparts. So SLPs are leaving Seminole County for opportunities in other school districts and settings where they're paid equally. When we lose experienced SLPs, our students are the ones who ultimately suffer. Communication is a basic human right. It's how we make connections with others and build relationships. Imagine if you couldn't say your name, express pain or hunger, or even ask for help. Imagine if your thoughts were locked in your mind with no way out, causing feelings of isolation and frustration. We have students right here in Seminole County who lack this basic human right. This is where SLPs come in. Through diagnostics and specific therapies, we help our students find their voice and achieve their potential. To communicate is priceless, but the district bargaining team has put a price on communication by telling SLPs, sorry, there's just too many of you to pay you what you deserve. In response, we'd like to ask, doesn't the fact that there are more of us indicate our services are more needed? That our therapy impacts more students? And doesn't it mean that SLPs generate more funding to pay for these stipends? We're asking this board and Superintendent Beeman to help us. While you can't discuss bargaining here tonight, we need you to go to bat for us. Seminole County is losing and will continue to lose highly educated and experienced SLPs unless we're paid fairly. We are not asking for more. We are asking for equality. Thank you.
Order.
Good evening. I've been teaching at Millwood Middle School for 13 years, and I love what I do. I love working with kids and their families in the community and doing my best to inspire them to be great at whatever they choose to do. But now more than ever, we need the community to stand up. We need able and willing community volunteers and substitutes in our schools. We also need our school board to look into the delays in processing substitute applications and some of the fees involved with applying. We've heard many speakers tonight discuss marginalized speech language pathologists, and teachers are grateful for the work that they do with our students. However, I urge our community members to advocate for better healthcare, wages, and working conditions for our teachers as well. For the sake of our community, we desperately need to retain more highly qualified educators and attract more quality candidates into this profession. That means we need our community members to go to school board meetings and speak, or at least email or call their school board members. It means we need residents to show up at the polls to vote for people that will support education. It means we need our community to communicate with our state house and state senate representatives in the Florida legislature. We need our community to step up for our kids and their future. It has gotten to the point where everyone knows the concepts and the popular culture that teachers are underpaid, underrespected, benefits and working conditions are getting worse every year, toxic political climate that demonizes us, and everyone knows that we have a massive shortage of teachers. And to clarify, I don't mean we can't necessarily fill those spots at all, but we do have a critical lack of experienced teachers. At my school alone, we had 27 new teachers this year. The core group of experienced individuals who remain at each school to train them and give them much needed guidance and support is getting smaller and smaller. It's no secret that this has a negative impact on the educational outcomes of our students. We actually need the community to act to remedy these problems, and we can't do it all on our own. We do need help, desperately. We are a top-rated school district, but we have to retain and attract talent to maintain this quality for our students, as you've heard from others tonight, on all jobs in this county. On a side note, I would urge that we strive toward a one-to-one student device to student ratio in order to limit the loss of instructional time due to our new fast testing model. So thank you for your time.
Order, please.
Raquel Molina, followed by Jessica Tillman.
Good evening. My name is Raquel Molina, and I've spoken here before several times, but I'm just here because after listening to the last few board meetings, this morning I said I have to come and support this group here. They deserve their raise. Please, please help them. The same way that I was begging you guys to help my daughter in the ESC department, along with many others in the ESC department, and you guys failed them and failed my daughter. Please don't fail them. Give them the raise. They deserve it, so they won't go elsewhere. Help them. You failed the ESC kids, but don't fail them, please. Help them. That's all I'm begging for. I'm not asking for much either, just what they deserve. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Tillman. I'm a Longwood resident. The Parents' Bill of Rights, now Florida Statute 1014.03, specifically states parents have fundamental rights over their minor child's mental health. So saying these mental health videos are required without opt-out violates this statute. The rule cited tonight, 6A-1.094124, does not say anything about the videos being required. It speaks to managing and reporting to the standard specifically, nothing about it being required. Again, this is a rule, not a statute. It is not graded and there is no plan for makeup. How can you say parents can't opt out? Why have some schools allowed parents to opt out of these videos? The videos are not part of the standard and should be noted to parents properly beforehand, and parents are able to opt out their children. The standard statute 1003.42 does not list mental health requirements. You cannot convince me that our children need a parent consent for a Band-Aid and at the same time say parents don't have a say in their children's mental health. Parental consent for Band-Aids also breaks Sunshine Law and policy that requires the district to administer first aid. There's been many emails sent in error to parents and community members alone. I got an email from SCPS, and my children are not in the system anymore. I would like to thank the one board member who did reach out to the community for our thoughts on the superintendent's progress. It really is going to take this whole district unifying and finding what serves this community best. Ignoring the community and relying on federal funding to fill the gaps is not what this community wants or needs, and it won't last. The more transparent the district is, the more trust you will gain. We have already had a gun on a campus, fights across the district with children recording for 3+ minutes before it stops. We would like to see our personal technology policy enforced to not allow devices used during class, and discipline for students who violate this policy by recording other students without permission. The chaos of this district has been created unnecessarily and needs to stop, and the district needs to pay their staff, all of their staff, their worth, from the SLPs to the bus drivers. It's not just the SLPs leaving, it's the best veteran teachers, it's the top administrators, and the students who aren't being supported. Thank you.
Order, please.
Nina Sandberg, followed by Laura Marie Montgomery.
I'm Nina Sandberg. My son went without the proper speech instruction for 7 months because SCPS did not give his school a full-time speech teacher. Take care of the speech teachers. We need them. It is very fair to ask the parents if our schools are being managed properly or not. Last year was a disaster at both of my children's schools. Neither school was safe. They were combat zones full of fighting, violence, bullying, drugs, sexual inappropriateness, inappropriate political activism, and chaos. Children were herded into gymnasiums and cafeterias to do nothing but play on their phones for hours and days. There were not enough employees to supervise, let alone teach the kids. Employees quit. Why wouldn't they? Parents pulled their kids out of SCPS in disgust. Honestly, I have never seen such a mess as what I saw last year since I was 11 years old and I was an SCPS student myself. You need to be soliciting feedback from both parents and employees. We cannot ever have a repeat of last year again. The superintendent is being paid almost $200,000 per year. We have a right to expect better management than what we saw last year. It was a mess. My daughter came home crying. She was afraid to be at school. She emailed me or texted me that there was a shooting was going to be happening. My son told me every single day that there was a fight every Thursday at the schools and that people were getting arrested. Teachers walked off the job. They didn't even have enough teachers. All the teachers are gone from last year. You've got guidance counselors gone. You've got, the place has been gutted. At my daughter's school, everybody left because they couldn't stand it anymore. I went in at the beginning of this year, and I talked to the receptionist, and she told me, I'm the last man standing. How's that? I'm the last man standing. Everybody else left because they can't take it. And if you can't even pay the employees enough money and you can't provide a good environment for the students, it matters that parents were meeting at Trotwood Park behind the back of the principal to discuss safety and security at Indian Trails Middle School because they were so frustrated. And then those parents, some of them, they just pulled their kids out. They're getting their education somewhere other than SCPS this year because they did not feel that it was safe for their kids to be there. I imagine that there were employees that didn't feel it was safe either. They didn't want to be there. They don't want to be there at all. I mean, who needs to be working in these kinds of environments? Who needs to be going to school in these kinds of environments? So yeah, you need to pay them. And yes, you know that my son didn't get the proper speech instruction for 7 months because his school wasn't even given a full-time speech teacher.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Laura Marie Montgomery. I have been a resident of Seminole County for 9 years. First, I want to thank the school board therapists, teachers, and staff for your dedicated service to our community. These are just some of my concerns. The shortage of teachers. According to the National Education Association, more than half of all teachers said they were leaving their profession sooner than they had planned for a number of reasons. After the pandemic, teachers have said students didn't know how to function or communicate with each other or the teachers. Low pay with high demands was another reason, and worrying about school shootings was a major concern as well as mine. What is SCPS doing to change this? Going forward and finding better solutions to keep all children safe in schools, what steps are Seminole County Public Schools taking to ensure children are safe while in school? I'm also disgusted by the thought that school lunches may be taken away if schools don't follow radical bathroom policies. And I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but a school board member was attacked during this meeting. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that concludes public comment. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation for consent agenda? Yes. Do I need to do that before I get a motion or during discussion? Okay, do I have someone willing to serve on the RFP to solicit proposals for district network switch equipment?
I'll do it.
Okay, I was going to say I'd be more than happy to do so if it was
Okay,
within
so
the time frame. I don't know what the time
Member
frame is.
Sanchez, but if she can't commit, then Dr. Calderon. Okay. Okay, Superintendent.
Yes, that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent, do you have a recommendation? Next.
Why?
Personnel?
No other recommendations?
Other recommendations. So, do you have a report, Superintendent?
What's included in the read-only.
Okay. And then we have board committee updates. So, Member Calderon?
I just wanted to thank, I saw him out in the audience, Mr. Greg Long, for representing us very well at the last chamber meeting. He talked about how to do business with Seminole County Public Schools, and we made some good business relationships there, in addition to representing the ePathways Department at the Chamber's Business Resource Annual Meeting. So I was very proud of our team for doing that. Loving our school visits this year, seeing the phenomenal teachers, SLPs, administrators, parapros that are working with our kiddos, phenomenal. Thank you to all the donors for Tools for Seminole Schools this year. We had a great school supply drive, and wanted to congratulate Miss Sarah Wilson, our District Wellness Champ of the Year. We want to make sure that we all stay well, and it was a great celebration for her that morning in her classroom. Wanted to thank Miss Mills, I don't know if she's in the audience, for all the dividend coffees that she's been hosting. And again, remind our community, we love to have community members in our schools to help and assist in any way possible. And with any of our business leaders would love to join the CROOMS Business Advisory Board as well, so we can have more internships and things for our students. Got the opportunity to attend our job fair at Lake Mary High School. I wanted to thank all of our administrators and superintendent who were in attendance that day. It was great to see them all there and working with potential new employees. And a shout out to Seminole High School Health Academy, who hosted last week. I know, Chair Pennick, you attended with us when Stephanie Murphy attended to share the news of a potential appropriation from the government to support that program. Thank you.
Member Sanchez?
First, I want to also do a shout out to Miss Mills and Dividends Program, as well as everybody else that helps her in that department. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary on a dividend program that was actually started by my predecessor before me, Dee Dee Schaffner as well. And they head up so many different programs with Brothers Keepers, Boys and Girls Club, all of our dividends, so many different programs and opportunities for our business partners as well. And helping our students in our classrooms with mentoring and listening to them or whatever it may be. We have our Central Florida School Board Coalition meeting next week. It's on Monday, and I've asked Kyle and Captain Fortenberry to present, of course, with Superintendent Beeman's approval. We have been looked at by other counties throughout the state of Florida by the governor, as well as the DOE, as being our safety model. And thank you, Kyle's back there and Captain Fortenberry over there, for leading your wonderful team at what you do to help us and to get the information across to other counties of what we do and implement to help our schools stay safe. And so that is a public meeting, but it is online. So if we will share the password information, so you can listen to it or zoom in if you'd like. Zoo update: we just for Central Florida Zoo, we rescued 3 trafficked monkeys, spider monkeys, that are now very happily homed and housed in our facility over at the zoo. I didn't think I ever realized how much the trafficking actually goes on with the animals as well, and I've learned so much from that. And there's the Asian Lantern Festival is coming up shortly, so please check out the zoo website and see all the wonderful activities that you can do throughout the zoo, as going there or even online with your family. Allie's Hope, we are, with mental health, we're still working on many different initiatives to see what we can do, working and partnering with our schools as well. I also, I wanted to, I guess I can ask it later, but if you to clarify what the law is for mental health. Is that the state law about utilizing?
Right, it's the 5 hours, it was the
Yes.
statute that was covered in the last
Correct.
portion of the, and it outlines what has to happen within those 5 hours.
So that is available for the families to see that, so they can see that this is something that's coming from the state and it's not being mandated by just us. This is
The
the state.
statutory reference, we
Yes.
can certainly make the PowerPoint that was presented tonight available to the
That would be
families.
wonderful. That would help some clarifying issues with it, and also maybe letting them see the Nearpods that are available for them. Because, I think it's important for families to have this communication, open communication and dialogue with their families if they are seeing the videos and talking to them and discussing the things that are on them that are a part of the initiative that came from the state that is something that we're all having to abide by. So I want to kind of clarify that and make sure that we're doing everything that we needed to share and partner together with our families. So thank you.
Member Krause? Thank you very much. I would just like to thank the SLPs. A special shout out to Wanda Shinneman. She treated 2 of my children. I understand your value, appreciate your value, and thank you. We do hear you. You provide such a tremendous service for our families. I had a business advisory board meeting last week, and we had Allie's Hope as our guest presenter and talking about some of the work they're hoping to do to support mental health in our schools. And in the way that they do it is by providing students an opportunity to have a lounge area that they could get a pass from their teacher and go have a timeout to get it together, which I think sometimes we all need a place for timeout. I've heard several classrooms have, in elementary school, have I'm not even sure what they're calling it, but just a safe room in their classroom, just a little corner that has some manipulatives, coloring books and that kind of thing, so that students who are facing anxiety, because a lot of our students are right now. I would just like to also share so that the board can maybe get it on their calendar. Allie's Hope is doing a Glass Full of Hope on December 7th at the Let It Club at Heathrow, and it would invite you all to buy tickets and attend for the school board. Thank you.
Member Almond?
Thank you. So the Foundation for SCPS Board Retreat is coming up at the end of September, and it's not an overnight. We don't pay to go somewhere. It's just an extended meeting to look over the plan for the coming year and see that our resources are allocated the way they should be to support the students and teachers. This afternoon we had a work session, and we had a presentation by the Exceptional Ed Department. They talked about the curriculum project, and it's a grant, and they're doing outstanding work, and they're putting the students together by their abilities versus by their disability, and having much success. So that's really exciting. Thank you to Tanya Shores and her team for that. Casselberry Chamber tomorrow has a panel of nonprofit providers. I don't know who they are, but we'll see, and I'll report back. And Best Summer Ever Professional Development, we got to hear today how awesome that was, and I don't know if any of the teachers out there got to participate, but that's so very exciting. So that's my complete report.
And I had one committee meeting, it was the audit committee, and you guys approved in the consent agenda this year's upcoming audit scope of what they're going to look at. So that was all that I had to report on, other than loving the school visits. Wilson today went to see the curriculum project, and it's so impressive that I hope that we can bring back a focus on student achievement and really let the public see the highlights of what that great program is doing for our students. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.